have a question for the men, and this is me coming to you all, genuinely wanting to know you all's answers. I'm not looking to argue. I'm not looking to belittle your emotions and your answers. I really want to better understand. And my question is, for men as a collective, why does it appear like you all are resistant to evolving the definition of what it means to be a man, while simultaneously hating the effects and the results and consequences of abiding by what it means to be a man? What I mean by this is, to be a man in our society, you can't show emotions. You're only good for what you can provide monetarily and physically. You're valued for what you can do and not who you are. There are so many things you can do that make you appear off as sus or even gay. That very constricting, confined box of what it means to be a man is what you all complain a lot about hating to have to execute and live up to. But when it is encouraged for you all to evolve beyond that, there's resistance. When it's encouraged for you all to do the work to become more emotionally intelligent and aware of your emotions, when it is encouraged for you all to put forth effort to be able to bring more to the table than just monetary providing or physical providing, why is that met with resistance and doubling down on this archaic definition of manhood? Because I see you all complain about men being lonely. I see you all complain about, how isolated you feel and how frustrating it is and how constricting it is to be a man in this society. So I would think that the collective of you all would want to do whatever it would take to be able to evolve beyond what you've been told this entire time of what it means to be a man. But as a collective, I'm witnessing more doubling down on it than evolving beyond it, and I don't understand why. Is there a fear that is rooted in not wanting to be wrong as far as evolving beyond this definition? Is the double down rooted in a stubbornness of not wanting women and other people to be right? I'm just having a hard time understanding why you all seem to be so devoted to a concept that is simultaneously killing y'all mentally, physically, and emotionally. I'd like to know why you all are so resistant to change.
That was a lot. She was very thorough in her question. And so I want to make sure that I am equally as thorough in my response. So let's go through it a little bit so I don't miss any parts. It's a really good question here.
I have a question for the men, and this is me coming to you all, genuinely wanting to know you all's answers. I'm not looking to argue. I'm not looking to belittle your emotions and your answers. I really want to better understand. And my question is, for men as a collective, why does it appear like you all are resistant to evolving the definition of what it means to be a man, while simultaneously hating the effects and the results and consequences of abiding by what it means to be a man? What I mean.
So with that part right there, why won't, basically she's saying that the concepts of manhood are harmful to men, right? And we have the choice to evolve and grow past and and change them into whatever we want them to be, but we prefer to keep ourselves locked in that box. And my answer to that is, I'm going to give you this analogy. It's for the same reason that the Democrats won't expand the courts, right? They won't expand the Supreme Court. It's the same reason why, it's pretty much, it's because the way men don't want to change the system because we want our turn in it, right? And it's all like kabuki theater. You know what I'm saying? The way that like with the Democrats and Republicans is all like fake or whatever. But the way that translates to men is because, yes, those things hurt us, right? The same way expanding the courts hurts the Democrats and it hurts their voters, right? Like us, the voters of the Democrats, it hurts us that they didn't expand the court system and add more judges so that we could, stop Roe v. Wade from being overturned, for an example, right? But without that, like once they do that, then they know that the jig is up, right? Like then everybody will see, like, oh, damn, you could just expand the courts. Oh, okay. Or like, oh, they have more power than what, than what we thought. And men don't want to show how much power we actually have. So we act like, oh, woe is me, the system is just so bad for us. And we adopt a victim mentality, because that is the true definition of a victim mentality. If you are a victim and you understand that you're a victim and you're being victimized, that's not a victim mentality. You're just a victim of you. But when you have a victim mentality, you have the mentality of a victim without actually experiencing any of the trauma. And that's kind of like how men are functioning right now. We inflict pain upon ourselves and then say, woe is me. We can change the system at any time. We can expand the courts at any time. We can do it, but nah, we're not going to do it because the jig is up. Once we do that, then everybody, the women will be like, wait, you guys could just be better people. You guys could just like not be homophobic. You guys could just like not, rely on women for all of your emotional labor, and you guys could rely on each other more for your emotional labor, whatever the case may be. But men don't want to do that because we want to use that to guilt trip women into being with us. That is the whole point of that. We are trying to manipulate women into being with us. So we don't want to show them that we have the capacity to grow. We can't, because once we do that, then women are going to expect us to grow.
What I mean by this is, to be a man in our society, you can't show emotions. You're only good for what you can provide monetarily and physically. You're valued for what you can do and not who you are. There are so many things you can do that make you appear off as sus or even gay.
Men, like I said, keep in mind, same thing I was saying. Men are the ones who tell other men that you're only as good as your paycheck, and things of that nature. And that starts from the top down. That starts from the rich oligarchs. That starts from the bourgeoisie. They're the ones who tell us that we're no more important than our productivity, right? Than what we can do for capitalism. Don't ask what capitalism can do for you. Ask what you can do for capitalism. That's pretty much the approach they want us to take. So they shame us and tell us that if you don't have X, Y, and Z, then you're not deserving of this type of life or that type of life. And because it's easier to punch down, we take that out on women and children. And we know that they're crushing us. We know that they're oppressing us, but we would rather fight the people sitting next to us than to punch up and fight those that have more power and more influence, right? More resources. And telling each other, and also lastly, how men, call each other gay and, use all this homophobic rhetoric or whatever to shame one another. We do that, right? Because we hate femininity because we hate women at the end of the day. That's what it comes down to. So yeah, they do that stuff, just to keep that, to keep the indoctrination up, right? Because at this point in time in society, men's core function is to protect the patriarchy, right? So them, and to do that, they have to keep men hating women. And that's just one of the ways that we do that.
That very constricting, confined box of what it means to be a man is what you all complain a lot about hating to have to execute and live up to. But when it is encouraged for you all to evolve beyond that, there's resistance. And it's
The resistance comes from like I said earlier, the fact that we know once we start to change, then women will expect us to be better, right? Also, the resistance comes from our ego. It's all ego driven. Also, the resistance comes from the fact that we were promised, that if we gave our bodies, if we gave our lives, if we gave our time to capitalism, that we will be rewarded with the wife slave. We were promised that. Our great grandfathers got one, our grandfathers got one, a lot of our fathers got one, and now it's our turn. Now it's our turn, and we don't want to be left out in the cold. So we're hanging on for dear life, trying to keep this system together. That's a system of smoke and mirrors. We're trying to keep it together. Capitalism is in its death throes right now, but we are still trying to hold it together so that we get our chance to abuse women, because we didn't get it. We didn't get enough of it. We only got a taste of it. And that's why we resent women getting any type of freedom right now, because we know that is the signal that we'll never get what our great grandfathers got. We'll never get our very own wife slave.
It's encouraged for you all to do the work to become more emotionally intelligent and aware of your emotions, when it is encouraged for you all to put forth effort to be able to bring more to the table than just monetary providing or physical providing. Why is that met with resistance and doubling down on this archaic definition of manhood? Because I see you all complain about men being lonely. I see you all complain about, how isolated you feel and how frustrating it is and how constricting it is to be a.
Those lonely men are collateral damage. They're just collateral damage of the patriarchy, right? Not every man is going to get a wife slave, but also the more freedom and the more autonomy women get, the more lonely men they'll be. But it's just like capitalism. There's a permanent underclass. So now there's a permanent underclass of lonely men. Like they just won't have any access to women. That's just what it's going to be, because they refuse to evolve, and we as a society refuse to give them the tools to do so.
Man in this society. So I would think that the collective of you all would want to do whatever it would take to be able to evolve beyond what you've been told this entire time of what it means to be a man. But as a collective, I'm witnessing more doubling down on it than evolving beyond it.
And the reason for that is, like I said earlier, we are in the last days of capitalism, right? All of these systems are linked. Racism, capitalism, the patriarchy, they're all linked. So capitalism is driving the anxiety. That's what's heightening the anxiety amongst men. That's also the thing that is driving us to move backwards, right? Like the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and men and many men, like I've done videos on, but many of these men coming out here talking about we need to go back to when women couldn't vote and getting women back in the kitchen, like it's all MAGA, MAGA, MAGA. That is in direct correlation with and connection to the patriarchy failing. That is what it is. The reason why you don't have access to your very own wife slave is because it's not only because women have more freedom, it's also because you don't make as much money as your grandfather did. That's the reality. Houses are harder to buy, right? They're harder to attain. Education is harder to get now because it's so expensive. Back then it was damn near free. So all of these things are exacerbating the situation at this point, and it's causing all of this anxiety in men, and it's causing men to lash out in large quantities, in larger groups, and more in more extreme ways. That's what's happening right now, and you can see this in when we talk about dismantling the patriarchy, but you also can see it when we talk about racism, right? And we talk about nationalism, right? And xenophobia. All of these things are at an all-time high in this country in the last 40 or 50 years. All of these things are. Xenophobia has never been higher in my lifetime than it is right now. Racism has never been higher than it is right now in my lifetime. I would say the 92 riots, like that snapshot in time. But politically, like on the political landscape, like all of these systems, all of these institutions are failing us as we speak, right? But the one that's really holding them all together is the patriarchy. That's the one that's loosely binding them all, because that's the one that's connecting the most men. And men are the people that are protecting all of these systems. So as long as men continue to protect the patriarchy, we are by proxy protecting capitalism and racism. That's how that works. And they got us by the balls, man, unfortunately. And that's why you see so many men like lashing out, doing extreme things. That's why you see all this red pill rhetoric. That's why you see even like men who wouldn't even otherwise pay attention to this stuff, 5 or 10 years ago. Now they're like making videos about single baby mamas and they're married. You got married men making videos and making content about single women. That's the connection. That's where it's coming from. It's coming from capitalism. It's coming from racism. Like, it's all connected. And the sooner we realize this, the better. Most men are not trying to see how all of these systems are connected. Black men aren't trying to see it. White men aren't trying to, like, nobody is really trying to see how all of these systems are connected, unfortunately. But ultimately, that is the thing that's stopping men from growing up and being better people. That's what it is. And we as a collective, we may start to push back against the system. We may wake up and be like, hey, it wasn't our sisters that was oppressing us. It was these oligarchs the whole time. Right? It was this handful of people. We may. And a lot of us are kind of waking up to that, to be honest with you, but not enough. And it ain't happened fast enough.
Don't understand why. Is there a fear that is rooted in not wanting to be wrong as far as evolving beyond this definition? Is the double down rooted in a stubbornness of not wanting women and other people to be right? I'm just having a hard.
No, we don't want women and other people to get any power, because we will lose power. That's the reality. And when I say that, I'm saying men have had an inherent advantage in our society and in every society for the last who knows how long, right? But an example of that would be like how when women are allowed into the workforce, that makes it more, now you have to compete with women for jobs that you didn't, like, before you have to compete with men, but there's less men, right? Like I'm saying, like, there's not as many, if you remove half of the population, there's less people to deal with. Not less men, there's less people to deal with, but you're doubling up the work, the work market, the employment market. So men lose power. That's a way of losing power, right? Some of these people in upper management, some of these CEOs, they're promoting women. Jobs that were, promotions that were just given to white men or given to men in general simply for having a penis, they're going to women. Right? Because some of these CEOs are smart and they're like, hey man, she's just better for the job and I want to make money, because they don't care about the patriarchy. You know what I'm saying? The patriarchy is a poor man's game. Ultimately, it's a poor man's game. How it's played on our level, they don't care about that. They don't care if women work or men work. They don't care about none of that. They just want their product. You know what I'm saying? And it all benefits them. More women in the workplace means more women making money, means more things that women can buy, so on and so forth, right? Like, that's how they're looking at it. They don't care. So that's what's going on there. The oligarchs, the capitalists, they are, like, their promises are being broken every day. Like, they're breaking their promises and they're giving women jobs, and they're same way they're giving same thing with xenophobia. Like I was saying, the jobs that were going to white Americans are now going to Asian Americans, are now going to Latino Americans, and they're freaking out. They're freaking out the same way white people freak out when people born in foreign countries come over here and get jobs. It's the same thing that's happening with women and men. It's the same thing. That's how you can see that. That's how it's so easy to see how all of these systems are built on top of one another, because they all look the same. It's just different groups of people reacting to them. That's all it is. Like I said, with xenophobia, it's more, you got a few black people reacting to it, but it's more white, white people, specifically white men reacting to it. You know what I'm saying? When you look at racism, once again, it's mainly white men, white women reacting to racism. You know what I mean? But when we talk about the patriarchy, it's all men. All men are reacting to this. Latino men, Asian men, black men, men that were born in Mexico, men that were born in Brazil, men that were born in Ghana, men that were born in Nigeria. It doesn't matter. It's just men are reacting exactly the same way to it. That's the thing. That's how that's the dead giveaway right there, that all of these systems are connected.
Hard time understanding why you all seem to be so devoted to a concept that is simultaneously killing y'all mentally, physically, and emotionally.
The same way racism is killing but white people, the patriarchy is killing men. It's the same thing. The same way racism has destroyed America is the same way the patriarchy is destroying men, but it's also destroying America too, right?
I'd like to know why you all are so resistant to change.
And that is why we are so resistant to change. So let's recap it real quick. The reason why men are so resistant to change is because we don't want to fight the capitalists. And the capitalists promised us that we were going to get our own wife slaves as long as we gave up our bodies, our minds, and our souls to capitalism. And we've been good little soldiers thus far, pun intended. And now it's our turn, right? We're it's like we're standing in the ration line and everybody else got their ration. And it's our turn to get our bowl of gruel. And they're like, nope, we're all out. And you like, what? But instead of you flipping the table over and everybody freaking, even the people who got gruel and the people who didn't get gruel, just bum rushing all the guards, I turn around and I start beating up the people who got some gruel. And they're looking like, why are you mad about this guy? Like, you'd have done the same thing. You know what I mean? People that's just trying to make it and survive. That's what's going on right now. That's the reality. And men, it's not that we're like, oh, we're embarrassed that we're wrong. Like, we know that's not it. We know we're wrong. Women know everybody knows that's not it. We just want the power. We don't want to give up the power. That's what it is. We don't want to give up our chance at getting a wife slave. We need somebody to punch down on after we've been punched down on by these capitalists for 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 years or however long you've been working. Every time we go to work and the capitalists beat up on us, we want to come home and take out our frustration and our energy on our wives and our kids. And we see it slipping away rapidly. Younger millennials in general, but younger millennials, Gen Z, men, they're seeing that they're not going to get their opportunity to do that. And they're lashing out at the wrong group of people.